Mr. Speaker, Section 19 of the Criminal Code says that ignorance of the law by a person who commits an offence, which includes our Prime Minister, is not an excuse for committing an offence. Section 121 of the Code indicates that everyone is guilty of fraud in the government if they, being the officer, accept from anyone who has dealings with the government a reward, such as a luxury illegal vacation, unless they have consent in writing from the head of the department. If the Prime Minister did not give himself consent, will he admit that he's guilty of fraud?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, as I said, we're seeing the Conservatives don't want to focus on the things that matter to Canadians. They don't want to talk about workers. They don't want to talk about supporting seniors. They don't want to talk about supporting students. They don't want to talk about supporting veterans. They don't want to talk about the opioid crisis. They don't want to talk about reconciliation. They don't want to talk about investments in clean and renewable energy. They just continue to want to try and make personal attacks and focus on me while we as a government continue to remain resolutely focused on serving Canadians and delivering for them.
The Honourable Member for Brant.
Mr. Speaker, we want to focus on his illegal, unethical acts. Our Prime Minister is the first and only Prime Minister found guilty by the Ethics Commissioner. The lavish, luxurious, illegal trip to the Bahamas was strike number one. Strike number two, our Prime Minister was again found guilty of ethical violations for his political interference in the SNC-Lavalin prosecution. This was followed by the WE scandal, Winnipeg Lab scandal, and now the Emergencies Act invocation. Yesterday, his admission that he did not give himself consent to accept the trip was strike number three. Out at bat, game over. Why does the PM continue to conduct himself?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Ago, in this House, we presented a budget that moved forward on supporting Canadians, whether it by historic investments in housing, there to invest in green growth and good jobs, there to move forward on reconciliation. And one would think that the House of Commons would talk about these things that matter to Canadians or challenge the government on the things that we did in this budget. We all know the Conservatives look forward to challenging and disagreeing with this government on a range of things. Any questions about the budget? No. Any questions on about housing? No. The Conservatives just want to fling mud, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
I know the Prime Minister is very uncomfortable with this line of questioning, Mr. Speaker, and he's going to try to spin. But Canadians deserve to know that the Prime Minister is not above the law and, in fact, should be held to a higher standard. Yesterday, he admitted that he did not have consent to accept the vacation and took it anyway. The unknown is now known. So will the Prime Minister come clean, remove the cloud of suspicion, and proactively speak to the RCMP about his unethical and criminal behaviour?